Welcome back to Metaloop. In today's video, I'll show you how to change the oil in your Audi Q7 without needing to jack up the vehicle or use a ramp. This oil change process is one that can be done anywhere and works on almost all Audi models that utilize the E8888 engine. So all of you that have an Audi with a 2.0 TFSI can benefit from this video. This is a fairly similar process for anyone that has an A4, A5, Q5, or even the TT. As always, parts, tools, and specifications are in the description below. And while you're down there, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you like DIY car guides like this. And here's the reason we won't be jacking up the car today. Believe it or not, VW Audi actually recommends using a vacuum-based fluid extractor to change the oil. But Alan, there's no way that this gets all the oil in the drain pan. I totally get your concern, but many YouTubers have already proved that the vacuum extractor does remove all the oil from the drain pan, like this clip here from Deutsche Auto Parts. Another major call out is that the extractor doesn't get all of the sediments at the bottom of the oil pan, but warming up the car to circulate the oil will ensure that all those sediments are suspended in the oil before being extracted. The fluid extractor we're using today is a Schwaben that holds 6.5 liters of fluid. I'll have links in the description below for you. It should pay for itself after just one oil change that you don't need to go to the dealership for. So let's get started. First, we'll open the hood with this lever over here. We can then open the hood with this lever on the front of the car around here. The hood stays up on struts and we can continue preparing the Q7. The oil cap is located here and we're going to leave it in place for now. The grade of oil Audi recommends is here. On this 2021 Q7, Audi's recommendation is a 0W20 weight oil that meets Audi VW 50800 standards. I wasn't able to confirm what changed, but as late as 2019, the E8888 engine could still utilize 5W30 weight oil with the older VW 502 and 505 standards, which is what we'll be using today because it's way cheaper and easier to find than VW 508 standard oil. The oil filter is located under the engine cover, so let's remove that. The cover has two parts. To remove the top part, there's two metal clips holding it in place. Simply pop the clips with a screwdriver and the cover comes right off. You'll see the massive engine air cleaner located here, so if you want to change that while you're here, you can do that. Ours looks good, so we won't be doing that today. The bottom part of the cover is held on with some rubber grommets. There's two on the front and two in the back. You'll see me here being a little careful and utilizing a pry bar to not damage the grommets. But off camera, I found it wasn't too hard to just pull with my hand. There's also some air inlet pipes that can easily be pulled out. After the two front grommets are off, the back comes off easily. From here, you don't need to fully remove the cover to get to the oil filter, though you may find it easier to take the whole thing off. But I didn't feel like I needed to unclamp the intake pipe, a couple sensors, and a hose on the left side of the cover just to fully move it out of the way. You can see the oil filter housing here and the dipstick plug here. They're both really easy to get to now that the cover can be lifted up. And that's right, I did say dipstick plug. Most modern Audis don't actually have a dipstick. Audi requires us to have full faith in their computer management system to check oil levels. But I'll show you that towards the end of the video. You'll notice that even though there isn't a dipstick, the tube itself is still there. This is how the fluid extractor reaches the bottom of the oil pan. Using the extractor is pretty simple. The tubing is basically a stiff hose that we insert into the dipstick tube. Keep going until the tube stops, which means that it has reached the bottom of the oil pan. This process is no different than sticking a straw into a soda cup, and you're just looking to feel that the tube has touched the bottom of the pan. Don't force it any farther than that. Pump the extractor until the oil starts filling the tank. After you see the oil flowing, you don't need to pump anymore as the tubing and gravity work like a siphon and will keep pulling the oil in. If for some reason it slows down, you can give it a couple more pumps and get it going again. While that's draining, we can loosen the oil filter housing and have that start draining back into the engine while we finish extracting the oil. The housing requires a 32mm socket. I'm using a low profile socket from a gear wrench oil filter socket set, but any 32mm socket will do. I'll have that set linked below as well. With the housing loosened now, give it 5 to 10 minutes to fully drain and extract. Now's a good time to pause and take a coffee break, but we'll be jumping ahead to the next step with a little editing magic. And by the way, the housing being up top really confirms for me that Audi does not intend for you to be underneath the car changing the oil. Now with everything drained, fully remove the oil filter housing and we can prep the new filter. The housing has an O-ring that can be removed with a pick or a flathead screwdriver. The new filter is from MON, and it's an OEM filter as far as I can tell. The filter comes with a new O-ring as well. We'll put that on and lube it with a little bit of oil. Note the location that the O-ring sits. The filter fits in either direction. I like to have the text facing up, but either direction you choose, you'll feel it snap into place. Since the filter goes on upside down, there's no way to prime the filter with oil even if you wanted to. And now we can put the filter back on. As you'll see here, the torque specs are actually on the housing, and it says 25 to 30 Newton meters. We'll translate that to about 20 foot-pounds and get our clicks with a torque wrench. If you don't have a torque wrench, hand tight and an extra quarter turn should work out just fine. Back at the extractor, we'll give it a couple pumps to get the last bit of oil that came out of the housing. Let's try to confirm that 5.5 quarts of oil came out. This is mostly to make sure that the car isn't leaking or consuming oil at a rate that is concerning. This particular extractor measures in liters, and every notch represents a liter. 5.2 liters is about 5.5 quarts, and we're fairly close, so I feel pretty good about that. Now let's put everything back so we can begin filling the Q7 with oil. We can put the dipstick tube back on, then we'll put the air inlets back into place. When seating the grommets, make sure that they're seated properly and not pinching. And finally, we'll get those back grommets on as well. As mentioned earlier, we're using Castrol Edge Eurocar spec in a 5W30 weight. This oil is rated VW 502 and 505, which Audi recommends for its 2.0 TFSI engine, and it's only about $6 a quart. Alternatively, you can use the recommended 0W20 weight oil, which is a little harder to find outside the dealership's parts department. That oil will run you about $10 a quart. The Q7 needs about 5.5 quarts of oil, so that makes this fairly simple with a 5-quart bottle. We can just pour the whole thing in like so. Then, we'll start the car to make sure the oil filter is primed. While the oil is priming, we can put the top part of the cover back on by securing the 2 metal clips on the sides. Now let's show you how to check the oil level. Inside the Q7 on the infotainment screen, hit the vehicle menu button and navigate to Settings and Services, and scroll down to oil level. We see here that the oil isn't at the full mark yet. And just like with a traditional dipstick, the area between the min line and the max line represents about 1 quart of oil. So we'll put about another half quart in and check the levels again. And now we see here that it's almost at the max line. I don't personally like to fill all the way to that line, as some of the oil that we put in might still be working its way down to the oil pan. And lastly, we'll reset the oil maintenance reminder inside the vehicle. From the oil level screen, we go back 1 level, and then to service intervals. The reset button will reset the oil maintenance reminder. Unfortunately, the inspection service interval requires a scan tool to reset. I'll show that process in a future video. Now let's start the car again to let the oil circulate while we finish everything up. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this DIY oil change guide for a 2021 Audi Q7 with the 2.0 TFSI engine. I make videos like this every Friday, and feel free to leave a comment if you'd like to see anything particular in a future video. I have many more DIY guides coming, but in the meantime, perhaps you have a friend with a RAV4 or a Highlander that could use one of my videos that are popping up now. Thanks again for watching. I'm Alan, and this is Metaloop. I'll see you next time.